Hey, welcome to my show, Enlifement. I am Doc Honeycutt, and thank you for joining me. Today I have a really great guest, and the reason I thought it was really important for me to have her on is because I've been seeing so much media about different mental illnesses, and it just really needs to be talked about. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about mental illness because people label you as being crazy, but it's not being crazy. It just means that you need help. You have a mental illness, and there is treatment for it. And when I talk about it, I wrote books about it because of experiences, not so much as my own experiences, but it was at my front door as far as a family member or a good friend. And I didn't know that it really exists the way that it did until I took one of my family members to behavioral health, and it was just so many people there. You would never think that so many people had mental illnesses until. But I'm not going to string you along. I want to get my guests talking and get everybody educated on this illness because, like I said, we need to talk about it. So welcome to my show, Miss Tia Evans. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. And you're going to give us some great information, so that makes me even more awesome.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about who Miss Tia Evans is first.
I get this question a lot, and I'm pretty open about it. I do therapy, mental health counseling. I see people of all ages. You're never too old for counseling, and then counseling can start as young as things with children as well. So I kind of dabble in different ranges.
Yeah, I know we're probably going to touch on a little bit of that. But now, is there something that gave you a drive to want to be a therapist?
Just a lot of personal issues myself.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of counselors, therapy being thrown out there for us, especially people of color. It's just, pray about it, or you don't talk about these things,
Right.
It'll go away. But that's just not the case. And so I feel like it's my mission and my drive to present myself and let people know that therapy is real. There's nothing wrong with getting therapy, and being young like I am, it puts myself out there too that young people can get therapy too. It's beneficial to start as early as possible.
So what is the big stigma about therapy?
So kind of like you touched bases earlier, is people think that it's for crazy people,
Right.
or people who should be in hospitals or institutions away from society. And the truth be told, having a bad day which turns into a bad week could be a sign of needing to get counseling. It's very basic. It's not as severe as it can be severe, but most of the time it's not as severe as people think it is. And people are afraid of being labeled. I think that's where it comes from.
So how do you even open that can of worms? How do you even let a person know? Because some people don't even realize that they have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you have that conversation?
I think it starts, a lot of times people don't notice it until other people get involved. So a family member might check in on them, or somebody at the doctor's office might ask them what's been going on. It's just when you realize things are starting to snowball out of control, and you can't deal with it anymore. It's a lot of times when it's time to seek therapy, even though it should have been done beforehand. So I think a good way to start is just to reach out with a trusted person, and even touch bases and ask what your opinion is, or talk to your doctor about it. I think that's important.
So you say snowball. Tell us some of the signs that we can, some of the things we can look for.
So one of the biggest mental health issues right now is depression and anxiety, and that can look in different ways. So say one day you can't get out of bed, you call to work. The next day you're still not feeling good, and you don't want to go to work. You're just not feeling it. Don't want to be bothered with anybody, or you're just too worried or anxious about what it might be going on outside. Then all of a sudden, weeks have gone by and you haven't seen daylight. That's a little extreme, but that's just an example. Or for instance, you're starting to lash out at people and you don't know why, because you could really be sad on the inside, but you're acting out by yelling at folks or even getting physical with people. That's what I mean by snowballing. It starts out small and it just gets uncontrollable.
So what are some of the things that a therapist help you with during these sessions?
So what therapy does, it kind of breaks down what's going on, what started this, and what have you done in the past that has worked or maybe hasn't worked, and figuring out how to do things differently to help things get better.
What's an initial process for coming to see you all?
So usually what happens is there's an assessment. That's when you just sit down with the therapist. You basically dumping your whole life story on them in little bits at a time. You talk about maybe a family history of mental health issues, what you've done, what you realize that doesn't work. You talk about what you'd like to get out of therapy, what you're not really necessarily looking for in therapy, and it goes from there. Then the therapist formulates a plan for you to go by. You get homework assignments, of course, and then you touch back with your therapist to see if you've done them and how that's helped.
So you talked about, well, let's talk about confidentiality.
Okay.
Is this something that you discuss with everybody in the family? About this one person? Or?
So no, it's like going to a doctor. There is confidentiality. That means nobody knows what's talked about in the session unless you allow it or you consent for it to happen. Nobody can call for information. Nobody can call and make appointments or check on appointments for you. It's just for you. It's a privacy of you and the therapist. And that's the beneficial thing about going to therapy is you're talking to somebody who doesn't really know you on a personal standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's purely professional. It's just you and them. And whatever you put on the table stays on the table. And it doesn't have to be talked about outside the room unless you allow it.
I want to just go back, and we're talking about mental health, mental illness, because it's a touchy situation and people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be labeled crazy. Mm-hmm. But I just want to let you know that there is help for somebody that that's going through some things. I know how I felt. Like Swear King was saying on his show. He's up more than he's down. He's happy more than he's sad. But I know I've been in a sad place before. I've been in a dark place. It did not last. But I'm just thinking about the people that has been in that dark place and they can't get out. Mm-hmm. And that's not a great feeling. Just for me, I felt it temporary. Mm-hmm. And this is somebody that lives their life this way every single day. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out how would you even help somebody to move forward from that?
I think the biggest thing about getting help is actually wanting the help. Because you can say that you want help, you can say that you want to live your life differently, but are you willing to put in the work that it takes to live differently? Are you willing to maybe consider doing one thing different that you wouldn't have tried doing before? Are you willing to maybe let somebody go that is making things worse for you? It's all about getting out of your comfort zone to have that desire to be better.
But it's something like I said, some of my family members, it's like they got everything is blocked off. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't get in, you just can't get into their heads that you need treatment or you need counseling or you need both. So do you think they go together hand in hand, or you think some things are solved just from doing therapy, some things are solved from the medications?
I think it can be both. It can be a combination. I definitely think that people are more likely to go to their doctor than they are to go to a therapist, and sometimes that's just the gateway of getting into therapy is seeing the doctor.
So is that when you start?
Usually
you tell somebody to start with their family.
Because you always want to make sure it's not something medical that's going on first.
Okay.
I think that's a first step.
So let's talk about what are some of the medical things that can be going on that are trigger mental illness?
So basic things like just nerve pain, or a change in how your health is going. There could be a decline in your health all of a sudden. You got a new diagnosis that you didn't think you would have, and all of a sudden you don't want to be bothered with anybody. Or sometimes a change in medications can actually cause some mental health issues to come about. So it can be something really basic, like I stubbed my toe, and now I have an infection in my toe, and now I'm angry at the world because I'm having issues with this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how long would this, with therapy and treatment last? I mean, is it something that has to last all your life, or?
It doesn't have to. I think a lot of things could be easily managed. I think some things could be solved in a matter of a couple sessions, while some things could be taken care of in between 4 to 6 months, maybe even longer, but usually no longer than a year.
Okay. So after a year, depending on if you do what you're supposed to do, all your medications and therapies, you can be med-free?
Yeah, and I'm not going to necessarily say med-free, but it can be maintained.
It can be, okay,
in a year's time. Mm-hmm.
So what is a maintenance program like then?
So a maintenance program might be you touching bases with your doctor once a month to make sure the medication, if your own medication is going good, or just a check-in with the therapist maybe once every 2 to 3 months, just to make sure I'm okay and I'm doing good. And then having a support system and the resources like community resources or support groups to help maintain you as well.
So how do you feel about, like some people are allergic to like seafoods. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about different things that you put inside of you, like somebody that drinks or somebody that has a certain diet? Do you think that plays a certain part on somebody that, that has mental illness as well? It could, can foods trigger? I
think it can, especially like with sugars. I know a lot of people who love candy or sodas, for instance, how they get irritable if they're not taking those, or they're not drinking as much coffee as they usually. It's little things. Food can definitely play a part too.
The reason I said that is because I've experienced. I try to really eat clean. But it's something about if I have even like a glass of wine, it's like I will get, like, physically, my body can tell. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll get leg cramps, and, my body just don't like it. Like, and it's somebody that does it every single day, they wouldn't relate to that. Right. But it's so funny, and I'm like, oh, so I drank that wine. But, alcohol dehydrates the body.
It does.
Yeah, so with your body being dehydrated, I guess that could trigger.
Yeah, because your body likes to have its normalcy, and when things get disrupted, you'll know.
You're absolutely right. So, can I bring a family member to counseling?
If you would like to, if you feel confident that they're going to help. If it's going to be a hindrance, or it becomes an unsafe environment, then a therapist will just suggest no. But if you feel like you can trust them and they can really aid to your treatment, then sure.
Because, I think that like a family member or, close family, they would have to understand this illness as well to even be able to live in the same household with you. That's why I was like, everybody probably needs therapy. Yeah.
And then too, they'll kind of learn how to help you too when you're feeling low and there's nobody and it's not time for you to go to therapy again. So they can kind of help you be your buddy system too.
Okay, so I hope you all got all that. I know it was a lot of information, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will hear some more from Ms. Tia Evans. And we're back. I promise you we were going to have some really good information to come back to. We have Ms. Tia Evans, and we are talking about mental health, mental illness, because I just think it's one of those topics that is not talked about, and a lot of people don't talk about it because they don't understand it. So I'm going to give you the floor back again. So, you can we can talk about, just kind of reiterate on some of the things that we did talk about, just in case somebody missed something. Yeah. So,
we were just sharing before that just because you might seek counseling doesn't mean that you're crazy or something really severe is going on. And people aren't going to label you. Therapy is normal. I would say that almost everybody goes through some things that can be beneficial with counseling. So if you feel like you need it, please seek it out. If you feel like you're not sure what to do, talk to your doctor about it. Talk to your trusted family member about it. Get help. Because something that can start off small can really become something big if you don't stop it in the beginning stage. So don't be afraid to seek counseling.
So let's talk about a little bit about suicide, with mental illness.
Okay.
For somebody that, like I said, they're in that dark place and they're having suicidal thoughts, what are some of the things that, you discuss with them too?
If you're having suicidal thoughts, you need to get to the hospital. That's the number one thing. Get to the hospital, call 911, the suicide hotline. But my main thing is get to a hospital, get to somewhere safe where you can get help and treatment immediately.
Can you tell us about some of the different treatments, as far as the medications that they have out here for mental illness?
Well, I can't touch about a whole, really the details about medication because I'm not a doctor. But what I will say is that medication for these symptoms is normal as well. A person who has diabetes might get insulin. Somebody with high blood pressure might have medication to help lower the blood pressure. The same thing with things like diabetes, depression, anxiety, bipolar. There's medications out there that can help manage those symptoms. And it should be looked at as a big deal because if you need it, you need it. And that's okay.
And another thing that I did not realize that there were so many different types of mental illness. Before, I wrote this book. He couldn't have me, so he attacked my loved ones, mental illness. And like I said, the reason I wrote this book was because people don't want to talk about it, but it was at my door, so I needed to talk about it. And I watched my loved ones be in that dark place, and they'll say, "Oh, nobody understands me. I'm misunderstood." So I started doing, a lot of research on mental illness. And in my book, I wrote about 14 different kinds, but they all, some of them share the same characteristics. So how does one, the professionals, how do you get it to where you're like, okay, so I think you just have maybe a little bit of schizophrenia and bipolar versus just depression?
So it goes on a scale. It goes about the longevity of the symptoms as well. How long do you have these episodes? How long have you been feeling like this? What some things that you do when you're feeling like this that kind of determine which diagnosis is which.
So you talk more about the most common ones were
anxiety and depression.
Anxiety. Look, can we talk a little bit about anxiety? Because anxiety. A lot of people feel like they think they're having a heart attack. So touch on that for us.
So anxiety can be something as, I'm worried that I'm gonna flunk my test, or I'm worried that I'm not gonna get to work on time. So it being debilitating, where you're having the chest flutters and you're feeling like it's a heart attack, and you just absolutely can't do something because it's got you so crippled.
So what are now, me being licensed to do emergency medical, I know one of the things that we do when we, recognize that somebody's having anxiety is we do like a talk down. We try to talk them, talk to them enough to calm them down. What are some of the approaches that you all find that help? So
something that helps us is what we call a grounding exercise, where you use your senses. Name something that you can hear right now. Name something that you can see right now. What can you feel right now? What can you smell? It kind of brings them back into reality of the moment.
So it just kind of gives their mind and their body a time, to kind of just like, okay, this is one entity, Yes. So, what, we talked about, counseling. So now when somebody comes into your office, you don't just automatically send them to like a psychiatrist.
Correct.
So you have like a certain amount of sessions with them first, and then you send them.
And then I look at the history too. If they've had medication in the past, I might just go ahead and send just to see where they are and what their levels are if they need to continue medication. But for the most part, we don't have those conversations until things just aren't working.
So what happens when a person cannot afford to seek any kind of medical, help for this?
Well, nowadays there are a lot of community resources and community agencies that actually help cover the cost of medication and cover the cost of getting treatment. So there's definitely resources out there now.
Okay, so how does one find these resources? Because a lot of people don't know where to go.
So many medical facilities nowadays who have resource lists of the communities, of the agencies in their community that tell them where they can go if they need additional help. And I know there's some medical offices in the area too that will put you on a sliding scale, and they may offer psychiatric services too, and those same sliding scales are covered as well. So the best place to go was go to your doctor's office. Even Google can be your friend too, as far as looking up community resources for counseling.
Does people of color, do you
I do, and that's the thing that I want to bring to the light too. People of color are going to therapy. We need it too. We aren't excluded, and in fact, we might need it more.
I think, everybody really needs somebody that they can talk to
Yes.
and confide in. You just need that one person, like, no, I don't want to talk to them because they might not understand what I'm going through. But yeah, if you got a go-to person, go to them. Let somebody know what you're going through. So, okay, now we talked about mental illness, and we'll probably get back on that. But I know you got another specialty as well.
Okay.
So, since it is your specialty, I just wanted to bring it up. I wanted to, the relationship therapy.
So in addition to mental health counseling, I do some relationship therapy as well. And all it is it takes a look at what your relationship is going through, if it's going through something, and how it can make it better. How can therapy make the relationship better?
Yeah, when I knew that I was going to have you on my show, I waited till the last minute. I was trying to get Pastor Sally to be on the show as well because, I admire her. She's been married, I think, for like 30-something years. Right? And, it's like her and her husband, they just so cute because they just got that, they still got that thing going on. She'll call him a certain way. She'll be like, hey, babe, babe. And, I can see him blushing all over, so I was like, I need her to be on this platform as well. So she can, we need some wisdom up here with us, so. Because it's got to be a science to this thing, to keep somebody, the same person in your life for 30 years. And, you still, like she say, I know I got it. So let's talk about that, longevity.
Okay. That's some hard work. Keeping a relationship together is not easy. It might look like it, just face value, but it takes a lot of work and dedication and saying, we're going to make this work. It's not always going to be good days. And that's just the reality of any relationship.
So at what point does somebody seek you then?
Well, there's different stages. You can just go because you want some maintenance. You're doing good, but want to realize, how can we make this better? Or it could be you've been having some arguments from time to time and just things are starting to kind of unravel. That could be a time to seek therapy. There's no wrong time to seek therapy.
So is this something that husband and wife couple, is it something that they do together?
It can be. It could be a nice bonding experience, or if one partner is not ready to go to counseling, another one can just go and learn tips to bring back to the relationship too.
So do you think which do you think is more beneficial? Do you think, because I feel like both of them would have to be on the same page.
Ideally, we'd like to see them end up together, but we understand that everything's not perfect, and sometimes somebody's just not willing to go, but they're open to getting something from it. So I say something is better than nothing.
So give us some good, Valentine's Day coming up, Lover's Day. Give us some good tips, help these men out. They need to know.
So the biggest thing for me is never stop dating your partner. Even if y'all are married and y'all been married for a long time, never stop dating them. Remember, why we got together in the first place. What do I really love about them? What makes me happy being with them? And keeping that in the forefront when things aren't going so good. As far as Valentine's Day, that should be every day.
Every day. You're right.
There's no way. There's no wrong way to show appreciation to your partner. That can be as small as, I'm washing the dishes for her tonight, or I'm making sure his suit is ironed for the next day. It's just little things.
So how about, let's talk about date nights. What do you think about date nights?
So date nights can be as small and intimate as you want, or as lavish as you want. Just depends on the time you have. Date night could be we're at home playing board games and drinking wine, or we're going out to maybe a paint and sip, or we're going to listen to some jazz music or some live music.
So what if one party is, don't want to do, you got one that's willing to try things, and then the other one is just kind of like, want to stay in the same little box all the time.
Start small. Look at things that maybe they're willing to compromise on and go from there. So maybe Wednesday night, spaghetti night, we're going to try tacos on Wednesday instead. If they're open to it, maybe try and see how he likes it, or like how she likes it, and go from there. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, let's try this, just to get a kind of gauge of where they are and come to a compromise.
So now, do you map out your relationship according to, what you were taught at school, or you just kind of, you kind of wing your own?
I kind of wing it because nothing is just straight laced. There's going to be some bumps in the road. You got to know how to navigate that when it happens.
So then you be like, oh, let me look in the book and see how I need to handle this.
No, I just go with the flow, and it's natural. You go with the natural flow of things.
So how does your partner feel about you? Do he feel like, oh, she just thinks she knows everything? Is she a relationship therapist?
I try to keep that part of me separate, and sometimes it's hard, but I try to, take that hat off at the end of the day and just be myself when I'm with him.
Well, you done something right because you put a ring on it.
True.
When is the big day?
It's gonna be a while. We're still in the planning stages of things, and there's some things that I want to get accomplished too before we get married. So, but we're talking about it.
So, real talk. Is there? So, all of the sessions are confidential as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How does one find you?
I'm on Google. Also, you can email me as well, T_Evans2010 @hotmail.com. And there's also a number there as well that you can call to get in touch with me.
So do a lot of people know that this even exists in a relationship therapy?
I don't think they do. I think, like I said, just therapy in general is still a stigma. So adding your relationship on top of that, it's like, oh, no, we don't do this. But I think now with social media and just the media in general, it's coming out, it's coming to light, and people are seeking it more often.
Yeah, see, and like I said, I'm a fan of the Sallys. They got their own show about it, relationships as well. And man, when I say the people was zooming in, I think I caught it Thursday. Everybody want to know how to keep their relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're gonna teach me how to how to stay married for 100 years. I want to be able to say, baby, and my husband be like, I mean, you can said, you can just see like he just turned a different color. You know what I'm saying?
It's so beautiful.
Yes, and it's so beautiful. I be like, she knows she got it. She got it going.
That's amazing.
So, is there any last tips that you can give us? That's gonna help us.
All I'll say is, if you feel like you want to come and talk to somebody, do it. What's the worst that could happen? And that's my biggest giveaway today. What's the worst that could happen?
Now, are you I know when people come in, they're a little leery, and you have to have an open mind. Like, I want this help. I'm willing to do what it takes. So, how do you kind of break the ice? Do you have an icebreaker?
I kind of just put it out there and let them know that, this is your time. You pay for it. So, get the most out of it.
Is that something that insurance pays for as well?
Some agencies will. I don't take insurance at this time, but there are some that do.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I also do a sliding scale, too. So it's not like, for people who need assistance, it's definitely out there.
And that's the thing about caregivers. The money we eat, that's how we eat, but it's like our hearts are so giving, so we want to make sure everybody get the help that they need. Yes. But on that note, I think that's our time, right? Is that our time? That's our time, and time flies when you're having fun. But catch us right here every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, check us out because we're gonna have some more stuff coming and some more stuff. And like I said, this network is growing like a weed. Well, like something. It's growing. It's like a wildfire. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me on my platform. Yes, you have to come back.
I will. I'd love to.
All right. So catch me right here on the Wake Up Call TV and Radio Network. And thank you.
Awesome.